Hi everyone, I'm Anna Finch from Finch Press and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a book review of The Deathless Girls by Kiran Millwood Hargrave. So first things first, the reason why I picked this book up is the cover was interesting and then I read the back description. It's a quote that is actually inside the book. I used to think to make people feel afraid was a curse, an awful thing, but I would love for them to fear me. I want them to look at me and weep. That grabbed my attention and it reminded me a lot of a character in Once Upon a Time, the TV show. So Rumpelstiltskin, this is a story of Rumpelstiltskin with the miller's daughter. In Once Upon a Time, it's a bit different. The miller's daughter is the one who claims she could spin straw into gold. Rumpelstiltskin still comes with the deal. I spin this, I get your firstborn kid, but she decides to learn it instead. And when she's learning the magic, so Rumpelstiltskin tells her how magic is made, how dark magic is made through bloodlust. The one thing, this is the thing that really stood out for that character, for Cora, the miller's daughter. She said something very similar to this, as she goes, I want this. She was made to apologize to a child who bumped into them only because she was poor and the child was rich. She did nothing wrong, and she's thinking about that, and she's like, I want to make them bow. I want their kneecaps to crack and freeze on the stones. I want their necks to break from bending. She wants to, that motivation, I'm like, whew, that grabbed my attention for that character. And I thought it'd be something similar for this, because I'm like, this must be someone who's been pushed down so far and trampled on and abused, and they just want to make everyone who stepped on them, everyone who made them feel lesser, to pay what they did. And I'm like, yep, grabbed it, bought it. Normally when I pick up a book and I look at the cover, I read the blurb. If the blurb is interesting, I then open the book. I read the first 1-2 chapters. I didn't this time. So if you've watched my videos before, you've heard me mention this book. I started reading this like halfway through last year. And I just finished it now. Not because it took me that long to read the book. It took me that long to actually sit down and want to read it. Or rather, get it over with. I read 6 chapters. Reading 6 chapters was like pulling teeth. And I'm like, I just want to, because I want to know how things end. I'm like, maybe it gets better. This book has a very, very slow start. We get to know the characters well. We get to know the characters well, so I can say that for the author. But it's very slow. It is super slow. This is not the type of book that I normally read. It's fantasy. It's historical fantasy. But 6 chapters, I was bored out of my mind. I put it down. I didn't pick it up. I read maybe 2 pages, put it back down again. I only literally finished reading it maybe 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago. Only because I wanted to get it out of the way. And get it off my reading list. Now, look, basic premise is the main characters, so Kizzy and Lil, are travellers, or gypsies basically. They are captured, taken to basically the palace of the settled, or the people they refer to as settled, which is people who live in just main cities, they don't travel around. The men are separated from the women. The men are basically work the fields. The women are taken either to the kitchen, they're cleaning, or they're serving girls. If you are a serving girl, you're generally very pretty. And if you're a serving girl, basically you're forced to be a prostitute. You're forced to sleep with the wealthy men. Kizzy and Lil both were going to be serving girls because they were very pretty, and this is kind of what they say, even though they were travellers. They're the only travellers who are going to be serving girls. Kizzy mouths off, and basically the hand and all that is injured, so they work in the kitchen until they're healed enough for them to be serving girls. Lil meets Mira. She likes Mira. A romance eventually develops between the two. The cook was the sister of Lycia, the one who divines their future, from the camp or the travellers group that they were from. And they were taken on their divining day, which was when they were supposed to learn their future, the skill they learned, things like that. And eventually the cook gives in and says, you should forget about your divining day. But she's like, is it already past? Is it too late for you to do it? She's like, no. So she divines their future. And there's hints, like, there's no death. She looked at their hands. There's no death. Kizzy has no love, no children, no husband, according to the divine future. Lil finds a great love. Again, no children, and there's no death. So Kizzy's a dancer, a bear dancer, a singer, and Lil's a singer. They're caught. They're basically thrown into cells for a week, kept in darkness and isolated. The old woman tells the madame, so the woman who basically prostitutes the serving girls, that one of them is a dancer, the other is a singer. Tells them what they are. Betrays them. Anyway, eventually they're taken to the thing, and Kizzy's forced to dance, Lil's forced to sing. Kizzy attracts the attention of one of the lords, counts, I think is I don't know what the word is, Boyer? I think he's a count. He takes her. Lil wants to go with her. No, she wants to go with her. The captain drags her off. The captain who brought them there in the first place drags her off. Threatens her with sexual assault. By this point, we're up to chapter 20. This is the first time something interesting happens. That's basically 3/4 of the way into the book. 3/4 of the way into the book. That was the first thing that was interesting and made me want to read more. Them basically being separated, and that, Kizzy's taken. Noodle's being dragged off, threatened with sexual assault, and she basically steals the dagger, stabs and kills the captain. That's the first time I went, you finally stand up for yourself, good on you. Because most of the time Lil's very passive. She's a very passive character. Stands up. Eventually the cook helps Mira and Lil escape. They get away. They go on a journey to try and get to Kizzy. They arrive at the camp where they were taken from. She finds out the forest spirits have taken their mum's soul and kept the mum's soul safe. Lil has a vision of basically her sister dancing and the dragon. There's like a kiss, and the dragon kissing her, or the dragon of the void kissing her, and there's like a string of blood, and saying deathless. So basically, get to your sister before she is deathless. We don't. It's not revealed until a bit later that they're referring to the undead, because they come across someone a child who's been turned and the father who's just been bitten and about to be turned. Lil takes action, kills the child who's the undead. The child turns to ash and kills the father who begged to be killed so he didn't turn and become a monster. Which is interesting. Anyway, they go through their travel, they arrive at the lands of the Voiceless, the dragon, see bodies impaled on sticks, so reference to Vlad the Impaler. Or Dracul, the dragon. They find more undead. They find the children, some children who were taken. Her brother, Lil's and Kizzy's brother, was taken as well to them. And the children are there. They mistake Lil for Kizzy. So you find out that Kizzy is one of the undead. And basically is a monster who drains blood. Anyway, they go to free the children. They go to the castle because they find out her brother's been taken. And her brother's going to be the last child killed as part of her deal with the dragon. As part of Kizzy's deal with the dragon. They go in. Kizzy's dancing. The dragon catches Lil and Fen, who is Kizzy's love interest, and basically makes Kizzy choose Fen or her sister. He's like, I'll let your brother go. You can choose either your sister or your lover. She throws a ring to the lover, the person she loved, and basically that ring is his safe passage for him, the children, and Mira, which is the person that Lil loves. Anyway, they go. Kizzy basically cuts a bit of Lil's throat, drinks her blood, and Lil's eventually given an option and chooses to turn to become a vampire, even though to stay with her sister. She loves her sister and she wants to stay with her sister even if she becomes a monster. Even though she knows she'll never be able to feel love again, she'll never be able to be together with Mira. Mira wants to stay with Lil because she loves Lil. They have one last night together. It's kind of implied that they have sex. There's no visuals, but it's kind of implied that. And Mira leaves with Fen, with Lil and Kizzy's brother and the other children, and they escape. Lil becomes a vampire. It ends there, and then you have an epilogue where they're basically, from Lil's point of view, again, that she doesn't feel love at all. She doesn't feel any love. All she wants is to feed on blood, and that everyone she's ever cared about has died, and everything about the dragon has passed into legend, and people no longer pass into legend, and they no longer remember what the dragon actually was, and they no longer remember that vampires exist and the undead exist. And it ends. So that's the plot summary. I summed up as best I can. Now, story-wise, I was bored. I wasn't into it. It wasn't until like chapter 18 that I started to see something interesting and something I liked. Chapter 18 onwards was good. But before chapter 18, a lot of the stuff in there, personally, I found unnecessary. Or rather, didn't interest me. Seriously, it didn't start. It was a very, very slow start for me. I did not enjoy the first 16, 17 or so chapters. It wasn't until we got past the divining and into the bit where they're about to be separated that I started to enjoy parts of it. While there were hints about what the dragon was, about the dragon being a monster, there weren't any hints of it being literal, rather than, well, a human who's just a terrible human being. Most of what was hinted at, I'm like, Okay, so terrible human being who enslaves people, wants sacrifices. Didn't think it was a literal monster, aka vampire. The hints didn't come across as clear as possible. The story plot wise didn't get interesting till towards the end. It could have been quite a bit shorter, personally. And plot wise, meh. The plot was generic. Look, the plot wasn't that great. It wasn't until the end that the plot got interesting. The characters were... Oh, I really didn't care about them. I didn't care about Kizzy. I didn't care about Lil or Fen or Mira. I didn't care about any of them. It wasn't until the end bit that I even liked, even a little bit, Lil. Kizzy, while she was a strong character, and there's hints of that strong nature, like fighter in her, I honestly didn't care about her. She just served a role as to get Lil to become a vampire. I could see her motivation at the end to kill her brother so that her brother doesn't become a monster like she did. But again, I didn't really care about them. Mira, again, I didn't care about her. I didn't know what her motivations were. Why did she even want to be with a traveller in the first place if she was someone who grew up hearing about how terrible travellers were and that they were children of the devil? And it actually refers to travellers as that, or that the beliefs are settled to have about travellers. Like, I didn't get that motivation. Mira didn't have much say, much agency until really the end. And honestly, if you're gonna... The romance was not that great. I mean, I can see the buddings of a romance between Mira and Lil. And honestly, I think that romance, or the story, would have worked more if it had focused on that romance in the beginning. Start with them being taken, show them being put into this position of working in the kitchen, and then show them develop a relationship with Mira, with the other characters, a little bit. At least get them to talk to each other, communicate in some way, or be with each other and develop that relationship. Because that relationship, it kind of looked like it was just shoved in there for relationship's sake. Fen, again, I knew nothing really about Fen. Nothing. Only that Kizzy liked him, and that's it. And they thought they were going to marry. That's it. Like, he didn't have any real... He wasn't a person. I didn't care about him at all. I could see, like, hints of the caring, but the character development, honestly, it wasn't great. I didn't care about these characters. And I like fantasy. Okay, I like fantasy. Okay, but this just wasn't for me. I didn't care about the characters at all. Like, at all. Plot, honestly, was meh. I wasn't into it. Characters were bland. Lil was the only one who really had any development at all as a character, and that's not much. Because she was very passive for like 20 chapters. She was passive until she was about to lose the only person she cared about, and then acted. The romance was not developed as well. I could see the beginnings of it and the potential it had, and it could have been a really good romance. But again, not developed enough. Fen as a character, not developed enough. The brother was basically just there. The brother of Lil and Kizzy was just there to give Kizzy a motivation for becoming a vampire, and ensuring that he doesn't become one. And it's not until it's not until Lil even gets to the city of the Dragon of the Void that she even realized, oh yeah, my brother's here. My brother was captured. Of course she didn't know. She thought her brother escaped. But until then, she didn't really care about escaping to find her brother. Which, I'm like, the brother's like 10. Why aren't you more worried? Yeah, he escaped with a bear. A trained bear. But it's with a bear. Do you honestly think he's not going to be captured? He's a kid. He's going to get captured. And I'm like, she did, and her brother was basically a second thought to Lil and even Kissy. And the dragon, or Vlad the Impaler, Dragon, Dracula, whatever you want to call him, he's just a monster for the sake of being a monster. He only cares about his own needs. And he doesn't care about the damage he's done. It's a game to him. He's a villain for the sake of being a villain. There's no layers. There's no reasoning. We don't even know how he became a vampire in the first place. There's no hints to that. There's no real reason behind him acting in this way and wanting control. To control everything in what I assume is probably Romania. Okay. He's just a villain for the sake of being a villain. There's nothing to him, nothing that even gives a hint of something more. He has no motivations beyond thirst and cruelty for cruelty's sake. So character-wise, honestly, I didn't give a damn about them. I didn't care about the plot till the last section, and I wanted to just know what happened at the end. So plot, didn't care. Characters, didn't care. Theme-wise, what's the theme? I really didn't notice. I couldn't really pick it out. I don't know if the theme is love, loyalty. I don't know. I honestly couldn't pick out the themes in this because I was that bored, and for the first 20 or so chapters, that I didn't care what the theme was. I just wanted it over with. So themes, I couldn't even pick them out. I just didn't care. So as a text for enjoyment, personally, I would not waste my money on this. I wish I just bought an ebook and returned. That way I could have returned it. But now, because I bought a physical copy, I spent $20 for a physical copy. Wasn't worth it. For me personally, it wasn't worth it. It would have been better to just get a digital copy for $2, read it, and I could have returned it and got rid of it. Easy. Now, if I want to get rid of it, I have to sell it. Now, I don't like it. Other people may like it. But personally, I didn't enjoy it. It was bland. I prefer character-driven stories. The plot has to be good too, but character-driven. Because the characters drive the plot. So personally, look, I will say this. The writing, the quality of the writing itself, so grammar and all that, it is well written. Language-wise. So written-wise, it's well written, well edited. From a copy, line editing, proofreading standpoint. Developmental editing, personally, no. But from a writing standpoint, the author is very clear, very concise. The language is, it's well written. But story-wise, I don't like it. It's only because of the quality of the writing, and I liked maybe the last 10 or so chapters that I'm personally giving it 2 stars because I did not enjoy it. It's not for me. The only reason why I'm giving it 2 stars is because the last quarter of the book was interesting. and the writing quality was good. Otherwise, I would probably give it a 1. So because the last bit was interesting, I'm giving it 2 stars, but did not enjoy it. I won't read this again, and I'm probably just going to sell it to a secondhand bookshop because it wasn't worth it. I did not enjoy it at all. Again, some people may enjoy it, but personally it wasn't for me. I actually liked, if I'm being honest, I like Romeo and Juliet more than this. And I don't like Romeo and Juliet a lot. There's a lot of issues story-wise with Romeo and Juliet out of Shakespeare's plays. But the fact that I like that more than this kind of tells you. Anyway, now, it doesn't mean that the story itself or the text itself doesn't have any value. There is value in the text as a text for literature, particularly for adaptations in literature. Because the author does mention in the bit about how this is basically supposed to be like the origin story of Dracula's dark sisters, or the brides of Dracula in Stoker's story. The 3 brides, because he describes them as 2 dark, 1 fair. Yeah, so there's it can be studied in literature as a text, particularly as like when we were looking at themes. Not that I could pick out any themes because it bored me out of my skull. Things like influence of culture, presentation of certain cultures. It can be analysed as an adaptation of Dracula. It can be compared to Dracula or Interview with a Vampire? I haven't read it, but anyway. So it can have value as a text for literature, Year 11 literature, or even college. But again, this book was written came out last year? No, it came out in 2019. So 2 years ago now. Again, I don't think there's resources for it, not from a literature point of view. I don't think there's any summaries as well available, so it can have some use as an English text, but personally I just didn't like it, and I wouldn't want to teach it either. So I'd give it 2 stars as a text for teaching, because there's not many resources. It has some value as a teaching text, but again, I just didn't enjoy it. Have any of you read Deathless Girls by Kiran Millwood Hargrave? If you have, let me know what you think. I'm more than happy to talk about it with you. Because maybe I would be more than happy to have a dialogue with you. It could just be that this book is just not something this type of book is not something I like. Maybe other people liked it more. I really don't know. But if you have read it, let me know what you think. Yeah. So again, by the time this comes out, I should have already done a live stream on Saturday. Anyway, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and so you can be notified of when I upload. And I hope you guys enjoy your day. See ya.